Well, hey guys, it is Josh King. I am here with my friend and brother in Christ, Steve. I'm gonna let you say your last name because
Kozak.
Kozak. It is an awesome last name. So yeah, we're just here in the studio or whatever this is called. I don't know what it is anymore. But yeah, we're just here chilling. And Steve, why don't you just tell Brookside or whoever's watching? I don't care. Just what do you do? Like, what your kind of your history? Like, just give them some just background information.
Well, what I do mostly is talk a lot about Jesus to pretty much anybody that will listen, right?
Yeah.
But recently I launched my own ministry that really just is designed to help parents and pastors just minister to their students a heck of a lot better, more effective, and really just help navigate this strange culture that we live in.
Yeah.
I've been involved in, youth ministry for 15 plus years now.
Wow.
I've been in the world of teaching. I've been in churches. I've been pretty much everywhere. I've been in nonprofits for a couple of years, just doing all kinds of ministry work. So it was just time to kind of jump out on our own and there was a need and we wanted to fill it, and God was asking us to fill that need, and here we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah. So you've kind of seen it all and done it all. well, a lot more.
All of it. A lot of it.
No, man, that's awesome. So you're also a parent, yeah?
Yeah, I have four.
4 kids,
Yeah.
Right. And you're telling me also that you and your wife homeschool.
We do no, my wife homeschools.
Okay, yes. Let's let that be known on the record. That's
I have little to do with it. Once in a while, maybe if there's a question, but for the most part, no. She's a rock star. She does it all.
And then, how old are your kids? Are they teenagers?
My oldest is 11.
Cool.
9. Okay. I'm gonna get this wrong. 6 and 5.
Wow.
Almost 7 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. That is really cool. Well, yeah, man, I'm so glad that you're here. And yeah, I asked Steve to come in, and he has way more wisdom than I do. He won't admit it, but he does. And like,
I admit nothing.
We just wanted to give just parents, youth leaders, just some tips, encouragement during this time, because it's kind of like what you said, uncharted territory, uncharted waters.
It is. It's different.
It's really different. So we're just gonna have a conversation about that. And so just one of the things that I noticed, and you have a ministry and you have a page, a ministry page and a blog.
Yep.
And I was reading one of your blogs, and I love one of the statements says about self-isolation is creating a better new normal.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? And like, just kind of go into like what that meant for you.
Yeah, well, when this all started to happen right out of the gate, my wife kept saying to me, I just want things to return to normal. And that became sort of that, like, is it possible that we just hunker down long enough, right? If it's a couple of weeks, if it's a month, whatever it is, can we just hunker down and get through this? Yeah. And I remember I heard, and I could not tell you for the life of me who said this, but someone said to me once, like, don't just get through things because you're not living life.
Yeah.
You have to, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know how they said it, but it was this idea that you don't want to just try to get through something.
Yeah.
You want to live the best life through every moment, right? Figure out how to honor Christ through every single moment.
Yeah.
So that got me thinking. So we started having conversations back and forth, and I kind of mentioned to him, like, well, what if we were able to create sort of a new way of doing things? What if all of this really caused us to intentionally step back and ask ourselves a really fundamental, important question of what are some of the things that we would love to change about our family?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we would love to increase in our capacity to disciple our kids? Better time spent with family. Focusing in on our nuclear family. And really driving more intentional conversations with our kids, and just those kinds of things, because we've been given this incredible gift of time.
Yeah.
Right? We're forced here together.
Yeah.
Let's not just make the best of it and get through it, but let's change what normal looks like. So then when we come out of it, it's not, oh man, thank goodness we got through that. Let's all go back to what we were doing a minute ago. Because that's not at all what I wanted us to be able to do, because I think then what's the point? I feel like if we're in this moment, it's because God has allowed us, but maybe even more so, God has given us this moment.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's a really great way of looking at it. So for me, like I'm an extrovert, and it's really hard for me to be at home.
See, I'm not. This is truly a gift to me.
So this is a gift for you, but this is my hell.
Me and Netflix, we get along great.
You guys get along.
It's not a problem.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't have kids, so I don't know what it's like in this new normal. And I mean, it's probably a little bit different for you because your kids are homeschooled, but for you and your wife, this is still kind of a new normal, you know?
It is. Yeah. No, it is.
And so how are you doing this? Like, what does this look like for you guys as a family in the midst of this new normal? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, it starts with, understanding, I think, I'll say it this way. I think it first starts with really setting the right expectation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So having an expectation, for example, that my kids are going to, even though they're home all the time, together and they're best friends with each other and they're used to being around, that does not mean that they're always going to get along. In fact, they're starting now we're really getting to that point where they're starting to get sick of each other, and we're hearing the I'm bored and those kind of things, right? Yeah. So it was first to set out the right expectations as to what is this really going to look like? And this isn't going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Right. It's just not.
Right.
Yeah. And that include the expectations that my wife has with me and that I have with her. Right. So she might expect me to, I'm home. So, hey, how about I help out with this, that, or the other?
Right.
Or my expectation of just because I'm home and my doors of my office are shut, don't bother me. Right. Well, that's not really the right expectation. Right. So we had to shift that. When are my working hours? When do I actually get something done? When do I play with the kids? When do I go outside with them? When do I read almost every morning. My oldest and I read scripture together. Cool. So do we do that at the same time as we were? Do we shift that? What does that look like? My wife still wants to keep some normalcy with school. I don't want to interrupt that. So it's really right-sizing those expectations first and foremost. Right. Then it's saying, okay, well, what are the things that we want to be important? What are some of the things that we were doing that time got away from us and that we couldn't do, but we wanted to do? So we looked at some of those things and said, we really want to do more devotionals as a family. I wanted to make sure I was reading with my oldest. We wanted to make sure we got them outside to play. Yeah. We wanted to make sure that just because we're at home doesn't mean they should be watching TV on devices. The things that are, let's be honest. Right. It's easy, right? It is easy, yeah. Go watch a movie. Yeah. Get on Netflix. Go do something else. Leave me alone. Right. So it was really just setting those things up to start to make sure that in this moment, I have if I view it as I want to have a purpose behind this and I want to use this to my advantage, how do I then use this to my advantage? What's the end result that I want? How do I achieve the end result with the right expectations, and how do I move that forward? That's good. Yeah, man. So in the sense of like, and I kind of shipped, I didn't even write this question down, but kind of what you said, for spouses during this time, whereas you have these expectations kind of laid out of like, I'm at home, you're at home. How have you, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, you've kind of changed your time and your hours. Yeah. What are some flexibility or just some encouragement or just some options for flexibility that parents can do at home like right now in terms of just work hours or whatever, like just some things that you kind of talked about a little bit? Yeah. I think the way you work at home is not the same as you work in an office, right? I've worked in a classroom. I've worked in an office, the traditional 9 to 5. I've even worked in the restaurant world. I've done it all. You've done it all. If that's an advantage or not, maybe. And in every context, how you work is different. And so I've done both having the flex time to work at home, to work at coffee shops, to work in an office, all of those things. And I have a home office that I work in. That doesn't mean my kids can never come bug me unless I'm on a Zoom call or something like that. And even then, they kind of still do. But the biggest obstacle that my wife and I had to overcome was really understanding that for me, even though I had flex schedule and I could come and go and do pretty much what I wanted as long as I got my stuff done, that she's home. Right. It's her show. Right. So when things are getting cleaned, when meals are getting prepped, when kids are doing school, when certain things are happening, there's a certain expectation that she has. And in her mind, like, these are the things that I do. Here's how it works.
Yeah.
And this is just how my day goes. This is what a successful day looks like to me.
Yeah.
Enter me now at home. And
Change it all up.
I'm trying to infuse my work day into a
Right.
home life where I normally even could just pick up and go to a coffee shop
Right.
if I was going to be in the way.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So now I'm just in the way. So how do I not be in the way, right? So part of my work hours are potentially later at night.
Wow.
So if we're watching something on TV and she dozes off, which happens a lot,
That's good. That's great when it
happens.
goes off.
and so I might grab my computer and knock out a few things. Ideally, it doesn't always happen, but I want to get up earlier. Give myself an hour or more in the morning before she gets her day started. I know when she wants to get her day started. I know what that day looks like, so then how do I work my schedule? And I think especially as spiritual leaders, it's our job to figure out how do we work our schedules around an already established schedule of the home.
That's really good, man.
That was,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning.
Yeah, man, I'm still learning too.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, and it's an adjustment, and I think there's got to be flexibility on both sides. And so yeah, just learning that better new normal. But yeah, so just different questions. So as a parent, how are you handling this, like with your kids? I mean, what questions, conversations are you having with your kids during this time? So are they asking about the COVID? Like, are they asking about God in this? Like, what are just some questions and conversations you guys are having with your kids?
Yeah, even at a younger age, they're asking the questions of what is actually going on. My wife and I are very open with our kids, so we'll talk about this stuff in front of them. Tempered, of course, but we'll let them in on some things about what's actually happening. And when your kids are home all the time, you just have conversations. That's just kind of how it works.
Right.
So our kids will ask, and we'll do a lot of dinner table conversations. We'll just ask questions like, well, how come God is allowing this, right? And if they're not bringing the questions up, that doesn't mean they don't have the questions.
Yeah, that's
right.
good.
And they may, because it depends on the age of the kid and really how your kid is wired. But some kids don't understand how they want to word a question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I may ask my kids, "What questions do you have?" And they'll look at me, and I'll wait.
Yeah.
And then my youngest will distract them, and it'll become a big joke, and then we'll lose complete focus of what we were talking about to begin with. And it's like, well, that was, and you're trying to have this uber crazy good spiritual moment. It's like, this is awesome, and I'm gonna do all this great stuff, be the parent of the year, and it doesn't work out that way. So it's anticipating that. Okay, I know they're going to have questions.
Right.
And my wife is really good at this. I'm probably less with the younger side. I'm better with the older kids. But with the younger kids, she's really good at knowing how to word it in a way that they're going to understand it. So she'll bring it up. And she'll even say, what questions do you guys have?
Yeah.
And then they'll look at her and they'll go, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then she'll say, okay, well, are you scared of the virus itself? Are you worried about, being at home? So then all of a sudden, one of them just the other night piped up with, well, I don't understand why we're at home.
Yeah.
Okay, good question,
That's a
right?
good question, yeah.
So we talked about it. Or I mentioned, my wife asked me the number of people that were wearing masks when I was out.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the differences and what different stores were doing and
Right.
whatnot. So then my oldest asked, well, how come people are wearing masks? And okay, so then what we'll do is then we'll kind of guide that into, should you wear one? Should you not? What should you do? So it becomes a conversation about what would God have you do in this moment? What's the Jesus thing to do right here and right now?
Yeah.
We have family in other states, so we'll talk about what other states are doing and what our family members are doing, and we had a small group that was meeting every Sunday night that now we meet over Zoom, and it's different. So the kids are like, well, why are you doing that?
Right.
Why can't they come over? Why can't we see this person? One of our small group members, it just lives in a sub like maybe 3 miles away.
Yeah.
And we walked over there, and we couldn't go inside because he works in healthcare industry. He's a doctor, so they're kind of self-quarantine themselves when they can. And so we're not going in. So how come you're not going in? How come we can't see this? So it's inviting the questions in and making that just a constant open conversation and knowing that they're going to have questions just because they may not bring them up. That if we know that they have those questions and we sort of prompt them a little bit, it at least creates the dialogue so that when the question finally does get to them and they start to formulate what that looks like and how they should say it, then they know what to say and they feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah, so it's about intentionality and actually, like, I know sometimes as a parent you don't want to, like, it's like pulling teeth, like asking your kids questions. Yeah. But I feel like sometimes if we get creative and we put a little bit more effort in how we ask the questions, you can get some really good answers. And I've even learned that kind of as a youth pastor, like, some questions I have to reword, and sometimes my leaders would tell me, like, hey man, this question I think it could have been better written or better asked. And I'm like, oh, dude, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I do see students like, I don't know what this means, so I'm gonna just check out. So I think that's really good. And intentionality, I think, was one of the things too. So kind of just navigating to a different question, but discipleship at the home.
Yeah.
I know this is a time really as most parents would send their kids to children's ministry or youth group. And I think the Lord is kind of shifting how this is all going to look and after all this is gone and whatever this looks like in the next couple months, years, whatever.
Yeah.
But discipleship at the home is so important. And can you just tell why is discipleship starting at home so important and not just limited because we as the church, we're a tool and we're here to help. And youth pastors and youth leaders are all here to help. Right. But why is discipleship at the home so important?
I think for starters, it's biblically mandated. That's God's design, right? Is for the family to take that central role in discipleship and for the church community to come alongside and assist in that because it is such a tall task. And I think the church community, both from a pastoral standpoint as well as just the rest of the congregation standpoint, I think is is an absolutely essential piece of that. Right. We can't do this alone, obviously. And I think part of that comes from, just going back to the intentionality piece, is it's so easy for really in anything in life, right? Whether it's exercising at the beginning of the new year because you made some New Year's resolution that you're going to do that now, or you read a self-help book on how to be a better employee at work, and now you're going to do these new things. And a couple of weeks go by, you're really successful and you get into it, and then life sort of takes over, you get busy, and all of a sudden those things start to fall at the wayside. And you never created a changed habit. But that intentionality is set so that you understand that you need to do these things over and over and over and over again, even if you don't feel like it's actually doing anything. Right?
That's good.
So Charles Duhigg wrote a book called Power of Habit, and he makes a really simple observation that one of the key things you can do if you want to get up every morning and go run, before you do that, before you go to bed at night, put your shoes out, put your running clothes out. So when you wake up in the morning, you see that was what I was going to do. And there's a greater chance that you're going to put that stuff on and you're going to go do what you're going to do.
Wow.
Right?
Smart.
So if I take same thing works for just spiritual development and discipleship. If I put my Bible out on a coffee table where I sit every morning before, I have a cup of coffee, whatever, my spot, then there's a greater chance that I'm going to read my Bible and go make sure my daughter's up so that we can read together or whatever, than if any other book is sitting there or no book at all, then I'll just be thumbing through my social media feeds, right? So it's about that intentionality. And so it's important for us as parents, because here's the way I always state it to parents, and it's probably a little much, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
is you're going to have to stand before the throne and give an account for what God has called you to, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to stand before the throne and give an account for my own kids that God has given me and given me the responsibility. And if I stand before the throne and say, yeah, but I sent my kids to Josh's group, right? And it wasn't that enough.
Yeah.
And he's going to look and say, yeah, Josh was helpful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you missed it here, and here. Yeah. It's our job, and you won't always be there. Right. When they're graduated and they're gone.
Yeah.
your job is essentially over,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So but my job never ends,
Yeah.
right? Until I end.
Yeah.
So,
True.
and I want to create that relationship with my kids, and I think that as a parent, that's what you want. You want your kids to always, make their faith their own, not to have your faith, but to have their own,
Yeah.
and to involve you in it, and you walk alongside with them.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's huge.
That is huge. And what are just some practical ways. So I know for parents right now, we do have that time. We're at home. Some of us still have to go out and work, but I think again, it's about intentionality. And so what just some practical ways that parents could possibly just start to begin to do this at home now. What are just some practical ways?
Well, there's some good things to do, but there's definitely, and I don't want anyone to think that there are just some simple, quick. Like if I just do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to have a disciple.
Right.
No.
Right.
But I think first and foremost, you kids need to see parents involved in spiritual growth, right? So if the kids never see you reading your Bible, they're not going to read their Bible.
That's
right?
so true. Yeah.
And so we have to model that. That's first and foremost. But secondly, it's modeling it with them, walking it through with them, teaching them. It's using every opportunity that we have. Think of the way Jesus did it, right? You read through the Gospels, you see Jesus do something that is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But going back to the word of intentional, but also incredibly intentional, that he used every opportunity that he had to teach them something.
Yeah.
Right? Go get in a boat. There's something that's going to happen. I'm going to teach you something. There's a huge crowd. They're hungry. I'm going to teach you something. Right? Now, we're not going to perform the same miracles, of course. But there's these opportunities where something happens and there's an opportunity to teach. So it's easy just to shrug it off, give them some quick sage advice and move on with life. But to take whatever's going on in their lives back to Scripture, back to the old thing from the late '90s, early 2000s of what would Jesus do? Yeah. Going back to that idea, really, to say, in this situation, I'll ask my kids this all the time. In this situation, how would God want you to act? How can you best be Jesus in this moment, whether it's with their siblings, whether it's with somebody else, family, whatever. My daughters were fighting this morning, believe it or not. And it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
And that was the conversation that I had with both of them. I was like, okay, what does Jesus want you to do in this moment? And it was coaching them through. I'm not solving their problems for them, but I'm helping them reframe the issue into how should I respond biblically?
Yeah.
So it's teaching them how to have a biblical worldview.
That's good.
In this moment.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah. I think those are. I think sometimes parents get discouraged because they feel like they're not making any headway. Kind of like what you said earlier, and then so they're kind of like, well, I'm taking them to youth group, and it's sometimes so funny because sometimes it's more detrimental of parents. I feel like when they just drop their kids off youth group and we give them this stuff, but there's no follow up at home. Yeah. And some students, unfortunately, they don't have a home. That is following, it's not following Christ. Right. And that's sad. But for the parents that are, like, this is a great, great opportunity for you just to intentionally just pour into your student. And really, like, our youth leaders are here for you. We have tools, we have resources. Steve, you have resources, you have a blog, all these different things. But really, I think it's up to the parents to really just start to pour into their kids. And I think that your just practical thing of them seeing you do it helps so much.
And it's important to remember, too, is that we live in an age of immediate gratification.
Yeah.
We all want it.
Yeah, that's so true.
I lose count of the number of get-rich-quick schemes that show up on my Facebook feed, right?
Yeah, mine
so
too.
it cracks me up. But but there is incredible power in sustainability and in persistence of knowing. And to that point, I mean, I don't want to discount prayer either. Part of my story is that, I was brought up, in a very, very strong Christian home, very strong Christian parents and grandparents. But I walked away. By the time I hit high school, which is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about high school and college, is because I walked away. And I spent most of those years just not in a good place. But my mom literally said, okay, Lord, he's yours. Do something, please. Yeah. And she prayed that all the time, probably every day, to the point where I eventually came back. She played the long game.
Yeah.
Right? She felt like, I've given you everything I can give you. I'm going to continually pray for you, knowing that I really belong to him more than I belong to them.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
and
so
I think to remember those things and say, these kids are on loan.
Yeah.
They're his.
Yeah.
And I need to care for them. I need to steward that responsibility and play the long game, because you're going to have peaks and valleys. I mean, there's times with my kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the proverbial, I did it.
Pat on the back, pat on the back. Yeah.
Sometimes it's literal. My wife and I will pat each other on the back because we're like, man, we are awesome parents. Right. And there's other times we're like, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what to do with this, because you're like, this person that did this incredibly compassionate, loving, Jesus-like moment that was like the worst thing you could ever do.
I think Jesus had moments like his disciples too.
And remember, that front part of their brain is still developing.
Right.
And they do that decision making. That's why that happens, is that decision making is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And it's not a good idea to tell kids that, but it's, that idea that they just don't have that capacity just yet, and they're working on it. But part of that is the more spiritually sound habits you build into your students from an early age, the more those will stick.
Right.
So to me, if there were any factors that are going to stick, I'll say three things. Number one is if you model it. Number two, if you develop those habits early enough and often enough. And then third one is help them develop their own faith.
Yeah.
Those three things should carve enough neurological pathways in their brain to the point where it's more normal for them to witness, to pray, to read, to study, to live, to look at a vocation as not just this is something I want to do, but this is something that I want to do, and here's how it's going to impact the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, it's helping them see that long game as well. Like, here's how this is all going to maneuver, how this is all going to work out. If I was to add a fourth, it would be let them see you struggle with your faith, because they're going to struggle with their faith.
Yeah.
What doubts do you have as a parent? What questions do you have? What are you working on? Share that with them. Talk about with them. Let them journey that with you, because when they hit it, they're going to go, oh, my parents went through that. I understand that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, and that's definitely that's how it was for me. And like growing up, I kind of had the same situation too. My family loved Jesus, followed Jesus, grew up in the church. I kind of fell out of love with Christ. My parents were praying for me, play the long game. But I saw them model all that stuff out as a kid. I saw them be Jesus to people. I saw them be compassionate to people. I saw them. My dad would wake up, still today, my dad wakes up 6 a.m. in the morning. He's praying. I know that's what my dad's doing.
That's awesome.
I would walk out of my room as a kid, and I would see my dad sitting there praying, Bible open, like sometimes even on his face and knees. And it shook me into saying, like, dude, like, my dad has this amazing, incredible, and it was like a faith like mentor. Like it was seeing my dad like just be Jesus, and then I'm like, man, like my dad's just so on fire for Christ, and he would mess up and he'd make mistakes and he'd admit it, and it was so awesome for me to have parents and to see them do that. Yeah, so that's really good stuff, man. But yeah, okay, so I don't want to do too much time, but and we have so much stuff I can kind of go into later. We'll probably have Steve back on again. We're gonna have to find a way to pay him. But it's like, I'm gonna save some stuff for later, another time. But like, what are just some encouragement you would like just to give to parents right now? Just some encouragement, like you're in the trenches right now, you're with them, like just what are just some encouragement you'd like to give to families and even just single parents, like just people who are just doing this right now and they're at home, like what are just some encouragements you have?
You can do all things through him who gives you strength.
No, that's good.
Much needed one.
Yeah.
No, I think if again, I think the encouragement is if you right size your expectations, and determine yourself that you want a well functioning disciple of Jesus in the real world, making real world difference for the kingdom, advancing the gospel in whatever way God has called them to. If you're thinking that in your mind of like, this is what I want my kid to be, down that road. What am I doing now to make that happen? And many parents I talk to are actually doing that.
Yeah.
And I think the encouragement, I think, would be in the moment where you feel like you are failing, even if you really have a moment where you did fail, that's okay.
Yeah.
We all do. But I think is to just keep pushing forward. Just keep pressing forward. Just keep going one foot in front of the other and just keep going. Keep being as intentional as you can. Keep thinking it. And it's exhausting. It's hard. It takes a heck of a lot more work to think that way than to just say, go do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But to create those moments of intentionality may get scoffed at, may be met with rolled eyes and I don't want to do this or whatever. But over time, they will look back at those moments and greatly appreciate them. Even if you don't think they did, you can probably, if you think about it long enough, we can all go back into our minds and go, all right, what were those moments that I didn't really want to do something and my parents made me do it. At the end, I really appreciate it. Now I think, and it makes a huge difference. And maybe that has impacted your relationship with your own parents even today. And it's understanding, what kind of relationship do I want my kids to have with Christ in the future? What kind of relationship do I want them to have with me in the future, and what am I doing now to make that happen?
That's good.
We do that. We do a really good job with that with our jobs and our careers and our spouses. But oftentimes with kids, it's just, let's be honest, it's not because we don't want to.
Right.
It's because it's exhausting.
Yeah, there's nothing left in the tank. There's nothing left in the tank after
It's just hard.
you're doing all that. Yeah.
It is. But find somebody to pray with you, to talk to vent to, strategize with your spouse if you have that opportunity. Be on the same page.
Yeah.
Always, always, always be on the same page with each other, even if you disagree. There are times my wife and I disagree on things, and I may just have to take one for the team and just say, you know what, I'm going to trust you on this. You do what you think is right. I'm going to back you up.
That's good.
And that helps because you're not in this alone.
Yeah. No, man, that's so good. Hey, Steve, thanks so much, man. We're going to try to get Steve back in here. We don't want to take all the time today because there's so much other stuff. I had so many other things I want to talk about.
There's always more.
But we'll say that for another time. You're just like, I mean, I'm getting to some knowledge and some wisdom right now. But yeah, man.
But there's all kinds of resources on my website, Stephen Kozak with a V, StephenKozak.com. I've got resources up there. There's blog posts. There's even curriculum you can get.
We'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
And and we would love to connect with you if there's any other way that I can be of help. If you shoot me an email through the website, and I'm happy to help. And it's awesome. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. So we are so glad you decided to take this time with us. And we're praying for you guys. We're praying for your families. I know this is, again, just some uncharted territory that we're going through, but by God's grace, we'll make it through.
Well, see, we won't make it through. We're going to come out at the other end a stronger church, stronger families, better disciples, more impact for the gospel. That's how we have to see it.
See, this is why he's the sensei. I'm the student. No, thanks, Steve. Thank you so much.
No problem.
You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.